Texans back on the field, a surprising performance. Plus, we'll hear from some of the Texans. We'll talk about 3 X factors that could impact CJ Stroud more than anything. It's time for another edition of the Locker Room here on YouTube. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me 10:30 every day. Also, between 10 and 2, probably right here on the stream. Texans are on the field. Mandatory minicamp continues. The star of the day today, per multiple reports. There's a couple of guys you look at to peep their analysis of it, but Kamari Lassiter apparently looked pretty good today. Lassiter, according to Stutz, kind of attached to Stephon Diggs, broke it up, but he says it wasn't because of Lassiter's defense. DJ Bieniemy says that Lassiter had a really good day. We also had Christian Harris, little sideline to sideline. I know some people hate that term when it comes to the linebacker, but Christian Harris, sideline to sideline interception in coverage of Stephon Diggs. I got a question of the day for you. In the spirit of the Houston Astros, Christian Javier is going to get Tommy John surgery. And this comes weeks after the Houston Astros told us that he slept on his neck wrong. So I'm going to ask you this, because we know the Texans have told a lot of lies in the post, or in the past, I should say. When is lying okay and necessary in sports? When do you care about lying in sports? When does it bother you if someone lies? Do you, like the organization, if the organization goes up there and lies to you about an injury, does that bother you? If a player goes up there and denies steroids, using steroids, does that bother you? When is lying okay and necessary in sports? Because I'm someone who thinks if you're going to lie with a purpose, it doesn't offend me. There's some people, the Astros, they cheated. Is it okay to cheat? The Patriots, they cheat. Is it okay to cheat? Marion Barry says lying is okay if you cheat. When exactly is it okay to lie in sports? Because the Astros do it a lot when it comes to the injuries, and they got they got a lot of people kind of just questioning where they're at. Texans defense. How good can this defense be? There was a nice podium session yesterday with CJ Stroud, Stephon Diggs, etc. Let's hear first from D'Amico Ryans about the tackles. This is D'Amico Ryans on Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard.
Yeah, for right now, when it comes to Titus and Laramie, those guys are battling back. They both had surgery, so they're in our return to play group, and they're on the right track to be back and be ready for training camp. So that's when we'll see where they are at that point in time.
All right, so neither one of those guys on the field. Maybe they'll appear in the X Factor situation, but no, we're not getting anything from neither one of those guys. Here's more from D'Amico Ryans, head coach yesterday of the Houston Texans.
From the other receivers that we don't talk about, you talk about a guy who's improved a lot throughout these OTAs and minicamp. Metchie has shown up, right? He's looking more explosive this second time around. Jared Wayne he's been healthy. He's been able to showcase that he can, big catch radius. He can go up and catch the ball. Long guy who can run, playing physical. So Hutch is flying around full speed every single play. So I'm happy with what Hutch is doing as well. He's improving his route running and his ability, to attack edges and get open. So all those guys we don't talk about, everybody wants to hear about the top guys, but our depth. We have a lot of guys who are working, and they are gaining valuable experience from getting the reps that they've been getting.
All right, so there you go. The Metchie train continues. Are you on the Metchie train? I like John Metchie. I think Mike Meltzer brought this up, and I thought this was a really good point yesterday. There were questions about John Metchie when he was selected, right? I mean, I think that's fair to say. There were questions about John Metchie when he was selected. He was coming off the torn ACL. There were other guys that perhaps could help the team better. You needed a running back. Could it have been James Cook? Could it have been Pickens? A lot of people thought Pickens would be the more talented guy. Even in the ultimate ultimately optimistic world, what does a good year for John Metchie look like? Where does John Metchie fit in to this whole situation? Because that's kind of the question I have when it comes to John Metchie. It's that you have 3 elite receivers. You have Stephon Diggs. You have not elite, but really good. You have Nico Collins and you have Tank Dell. What does the Metchie train look like? Is he better than Noah Brown this year? Is he better than Robert Woods? Does Metchie emerge as the number 4 receiver? If that happens, you're on to something. And then you'll have 3 guys that you feel good about that are under contract for multiple years. In Tank, Metchie, and Nico. But we saw Noah Brown last year, and Noah Brown, I think he missed 7 games. But at times, Noah Brown was playing at an elite level. And he had some incredible chemistry with CJ Stroud. He had some incredible chemistry with CJ Stroud, especially off script. Is John Metchie become that? Like, is John Metchie doing what Noah Brown did against Cincinnati? He's not going to have to, but is he capable of it? So there's kind of a numbers game that comes into play with the whole Metchie thing that I think that deserves a little bit more attention than perhaps it's getting. The Metchie thing is really, really interesting, though, because I don't know, and he has said multiple times that he doesn't want to be treated any differently. He doesn't want to be graded on a curve, but it does kind of feel like, and rightfully so, it's human nature. It does feel like there's a desire to pull for John Metchie because of the story. And when you actually look at the roster, it just might not be the right time. And quite frankly, you might just be grading on a curve and it might not be where a lot of people hope it is. So who knows? Tyler Olson says, if I'm Nick, D'Amico, Bobby, I'm looking for Metchie to prove he can be a viable number 3 wide receiver next year to try to make sure we feel good if Diggs walks. Anything he does this year is great, but mostly need flashes. Flashes probably aren't going to make you feel good about Diggs walking. But the other thing about Diggs walking is it feels somewhat inevitable. Stranger things have happened. Maybe he gets a couple-year deal with the Texans that's kind of similar to the one they ripped up. But other than that, he might play his way out of the situation, depending on what the rest of the league thinks about him. But I don't know that flashes are going to make you feel good about losing Diggs. Also didn't give up too much for Diggs. Robert says, I think he can become a great, all caps great. Okay, that means great. Great 4th wide receiver and make Diggs dispensable after the year. Save money. Okay. Marion's Berries. Noah Brown is injury prone because he balls out 110%, gives up his body for the extra yard. Yeah, but he's not going to have to do it as much this year. He's naturally pushed down the depth chart. So that's got to help him a little bit, I would think. I know he has the special teams background. I don't know that Noah Brown's going to play special teams. That's the other thing about Metchie. I don't think Metchie's a special teams guy. Maybe he will be. Maybe they'll try to use him a lot more. But how much special teams do you want Metchie playing? It's going to be wild. Brandon, when Diggs goes, there's more cash for defense. You're talking about defense. We'll get to that in a sec. Is Metchie capable of contributing on special teams? Never really playing it. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know if that's something that you just pick up in the end. Shout out to Ronald. Nice to see you, my friend. They're drafting another wide receiver next year. The class is supposed to be good, if not better than this year's class, according to John Harris. I feel like that's an every year thing. I've actually talked to John Harris about this. Wide receiver class, it seems like maybe it's because colleges throw so much, and maybe it's because all the best players are trying to play wide receiver because they see what's going on with the position. But it seems like every year the wide receiver class is elite. But my thing is this, okay, if we're looking ahead, and we're really getting ahead of ourselves right now. Hell, they're on the field right now for minicamp. They haven't even started training camp in 2024. But if we're looking ahead to the 2025 NFL draft, and we're trying to proactively look at the Texans' needs and what they may need, like what the most pressing needs will be, maybe you can say wide receiver. you got to think safety is going to be up there because Ward isn't getting any younger, and you have Jalen Petrie. Now, maybe Bullock develops into something. I don't know whether that's going to happen. Corner, we don't know what's going to happen at number 2 corner. We don't know if Derek Stingley is going to stay healthy. So you have other pressing needs. I know they got, as soon as you start having these conversations, you get they found Tank Dell in the 3rd round. They found Nico in the 2nd. That's not always the case, though. You usually want to be drafting early. The beauty of it is we're talking about pressing needs for the Texans, and it's hard to figure out what the pressing need is. Used to be pretty damn easy. Hell, you could go 1 or 2 years in advance with the Texans. But that just kind of speaks to how much the roster has improved. Devin F. Landry saw tornado sirens going off during practice. Y'all good over there? I'm fine. Although, given what happened a couple weeks ago with the power, you never really know. Never really say never. My guess is next year is still OT and DT. If they've already drafted, Fisher was drafted for a year in advance or 2 years in advance, ideally 2 years in advance. So if they're drafting an offensive tackle in round 1, then that would be great if he's good enough to start in 2 years or 1 year from when he's drafted, because you won't be paying as much for tackles once CJ's rookie deal kicks in. But yeah, I don't know about I don't know about the biggest need, and we really don't have to. Let's hear from D'Amico Ryans. Texans mandatory minicamp continues. Let's hear what D'Amico had to say. We'll also get into the 3 biggest X factors. A contract in the NFL. Is it more comparable to Nico Collins than the ones that we've spoken of? And it's very rare that a, quote, franchise quarterback gets paid in your division and you're rooting for it. But are you rooting for the Jacksonville Jaguars to pony up with Trevor Lawrence? Before that, let's hear from D'Amico Ryans right here in the locker room.
Like that, man. 10 o'clock, it's dark outside. So. First night practice. A little earlier than we wanted it. I like that in training camp. How did things go? It went really well. These couple of days of mini camp have gone really well for us. I really love the competitive spirit of our team. Like both sides, offense making plays, defense making plays. You never want to see it all the way one-sided, right? You want to just have a good collective effort amongst everyone, and that's what they've shown over the past couple of days and throughout our entire time here at OTAs. It's just a lot of back and forth, a lot of competitive plays happening, and I'm very pleased with where we are going into our break for the summer.
Have you seen any benefit to having Danielle Hunter on Will Anderson? And if so, I know it's only been a short period of time, but what benefit have you seen?
With Danielle and Will, I think they instantly have this connection, right, that you need for both of those ends, like playing off of each other, right, picking each other's brain. Danielle is he's a veteran in the league. He's done it for a while, so Will being able to lean on him, for advice of how he's seen it done, I think that's very important. And I like the connection that they have. They've been working well together, and it's great to see both of them collapse in the pocket, finishing on the quarterback.
Kamari, you guys a second round pick out there. He made it. He had some good coverage on some plays while guarding stuff on day. What have you seen from him throughout this short period of time since he's been in the building?
What I've seen from Kamari is I've seen a guy who's been locked in from day one since he's gotten here. He's been locked in. He's done everything we've asked him to do. Kamari is a guy who doesn't make the same mistake twice, right? He's very competitive. He's making plays, like instinctive player. And I think a lot of guys are fired up to see what he's been able to do over the past couple of weeks. So excited to see how he's trending, right? He's trending in the right direction. Excited to see, how he comes back and where he starts in training camp.
Speaking of trending in the right direction, I know we asked you previously during OTAs about Kenyon, but now that everybody's back, we have that. How is he looking out there? And he looks like he's put in a lot of work in the offseason, makes sure that he was in shape coming back.
Yeah, with Kenyon, what I've seen is, first off, credit to him for the work that he's done. He's changed his body. He's looking good, looking lean. He's able to move better, and I see a more athletic guy, see a guy who's actually been able to stay on the field. And that's been the main thing, I think, for Kenyon. Important year for him is just availability, just being out there. And now the ball is the ball. He'll continue to improve and get better in those regards. But for him, the main thing is just him being healthy and being on the field, giving himself a chance to compete. And the work that he's done over the offseason, like he's given himself that chance. Now he can continue to build off of that, come back in camp, ready to roll.
Same lines, what can you share about, the conversations that you had with Kenyon? Because even though he was going through his, adversity last year, you guys was always talking about he was always in the building and how he was always staying motivated.
Yeah, so, seeing Kenyon around the building, some guys, when they get injured, it's easy to just kind of lose sight of what's going on. But he was still around with the meetings and just all.
All right, that was D'Amico Ryans out there at camp. We'll try to get back out there and see if we can get the rest of that from D'Amico. I think they've actually updated it. So yeah, we got this. Hold on just a sec.
Stressing us on defense, really making guys communicate, giving us some really tough looks. That's credit to Bobby and what he's done with the staff. So we each year try to give coaches more and more responsibilities and allow them chances and opportunities to grow. And that's what the offseason is about for us as coaches. So in our meetings and those things, we try to get as many coaches up to talk in front of the group, to give those guys that experience. So if they happen to get the opportunity, right, to lead the group, it's not their first time standing in front of the team. So give guys those opportunities, and I think that helps them, all right, in their development.
Are you comfortable with where Laramie and Titus are and getting back and with them out? How valuable is it for all those guys, especially Blake, to get some of those reps?
Yeah, for right now, when it comes to Titus and Laramie, those guys are battling back. They both had surgery, so they're in our return to play group, and they're on the right track to be back and be ready for training camp. So that's when we'll see where they are at that point in time.
You talk a lot about obviously it's a build up, but it all really starts at training camp. What do you want these guys to do when they leave minicamp in this break? What's your message to them for that in between time?
Yeah, my biggest message for guys is don't lose what you've gained over the past 9 weeks. Right, guys, you're in great shape. We've been practicing football. Like, don't just go away and do nothing and think you're going to pick it back up, right, a week before, 2 weeks before a training camp. When you leave, you have to continue to train, continue to build on the gains that you've made. On guys to stay on it. So you're a step ahead when you come back to training camp. You're not coming back to training camp and trying to use camp to get in shape. If you have to use camp to get in shape, and it's going to be a long camp for you, and that's when you're susceptible to injury, right? So my main thing is just stay on it. You're at a great point with your bodies, like stay on it and come back in the best shape of your life.
In 2024, there's new kickoff rules for the NFL. Could you explain some of that to the fans and how you guys have prepared for it?
Yeah, we've been experiencing with the new kickoff rule. It's going to be new for everyone, right? And I think the fans will be exciting. You're actually going to get actual kickoff. You're going to get a play, and I think that was the biggest thing of putting the kickoff back in. No more fair catch, right? So you're going to force a returner to run the ball. The distance is shorter, so guys aren't picking up as much speed when it comes to the kickoff team. So those blocks are going to happen very quickly. It's going to be in a short area. So guys got the win with quickness, right? And I think you're going to see a lot of plays made on the edge of the kickoff and kickoff return, where I've seen it where the kickoff returner is really, it's going to be like a 3-on-3 type of game where you have 3 blockers, all right, 3 defenders trying to make a play, and if the returner is quick enough, fast enough, he probably split. So you'll see a lot of plays being made on the kickoff team and the kickoff return team this year.
In what ways have you seen CJ grow this offseason?
One more time.
In what ways have you seen CJ grow since he's come in this offseason?
Yeah, CJ is continuing to grow, just in his leadership. I think just seeing him today, offense wasn't doing that great offensively, and to see him just stop it, try to bring all the guys together, settle them down. Like you talk about from year 1 to year 2, you didn't see that last year from CJ. So, and that's what you would love to see in your quarterback, him having an awareness for how a practice is going and having the wherewithal to step in and let's course correct while we're actually out here on the field, not wait until we get in and watch the film and come back tomorrow. And no, let's stop it and let's do something about it right now. So that's one area of growth that I see, just his awareness to be able to step up and say something when it's not going the way it should go.
Look at Juice Scruggs. Have you seen a lot of progression from the offseason now to having a whole healthy offseason?
Yeah, Juice is looking great. I mean, he's done a great job. He's been here, I think, for most of the offseason. Even before we started our offseason program, Juice was here working out with our strength staff, and you can see, right, the growth. You can see him. He looks stronger. He looks better. And I'm encouraged where Juice is right now.
Follow up on Jonathan's question. You talked a little about CJ's growth and leadership. One thing that I think we've all noticed is how his ability to connect with people from different walks of life. How valuable do you think that's been to the Texans, and just being able to connect with anybody from any walk of life?
And when you talk about building a team and everything that it takes to build a team, it's all about connection, right? For all of us, we're all in the people business, and we have to be able to connect to get the best out of each other. And when you're connected, right, you feel a heightened sense of urgency to get it done, because it truly, the guy to the left or to the right of you truly means something to you, right? And that connection, for me, it's when you're connected, you're a tight team, like you have opportunity to go and do great things. If you're not connected, you have no shot. So his ability to connect with many different people from all walks of life, it definitely helps him to win a locker room. And when your quarterback is your leader and he's connected with everyone in the locker room, not just the offensive side, but he's connected to everyone, like it makes it easier for our team to progress and move forward much quicker because of his leadership ability.
Last one. So, D'Amico, with Christian Harris last year, about midway through the season, it seemed like he got a lot better and did a lot of things all at once. Was there a specific coaching point that made things click for him?
For Christian, Steph, it was just all about just confidence. Just believe that you can make those plays. And I think, and for me as a coach, is one thing you just continue to, exude and push that confidence upon him, because he's a great player. He's talented, has all the athletic ability. Now it's just him just continuing to believe that. And once he crossed that threshold of believing, that's when you see him take off. And he made play after play for us at crucial moments in games. He stepped up and made big time plays for us, just because take the technique and all those things aside, right? You have to believe you can make plays in this league and believe you're a playmaker. And now he knows that, and he's walking in that manner. And, it's really cool to see him, show up and make plays, even still today, making plays all over the field. So it's one guy I'm proud of, and I'm so proud to see his growth.
Was part of it just like trusting his keys?
Yeah.
Was he second guessing himself?
That's it. You talk about being a great football player, no matter the position, right? It's all about your instincts, right? And if you have the instincts and you see it and you trust it and you go with it and you play fast, you make plays. So Christian never had a problem with Sid. It's just don't second guess yourself. Just go and make the play. And that's for every position. Guys who play fast, right, their instincts are taking over. They're not thinking. They're on autopilot. They're just rolling. They know they know the techniques. They know how to do it. Now they just let their bodies just take over and go make plays. All right. Thanks.
That was D'Amico. That was the reaction to D'Amico. We'll hear from players today. D'Amico, interesting things to say. The Metchie train thing is wild to me. I think it's really, really crazy just how much hype Metchie is getting. And I don't know if it's being on a curve or if these guys truly believe that Metchie is going to be a contributor on this squad this year. It just seems a little bit, it seems like a lot to ask, even at full strength on this squad. It's a lot to ask for someone to improve, especially someone who we really haven't seen perform at that high of a level. Let's get into some of the questions, and then we'll get into the three big X factors for the Texans. But I'm gonna answer some of the questions coming in on the stream. I keep hearing good things about Lassiter. Feel he might end up being CB2 by the end of this. I could see that happening, maybe. But I've heard good things about really all these guys in stretches. This is going to be something that we're going to have to see in training camp once stuff intensifies. And we're really going to have to see it in a preseason game, even if it's just a half of sample size or anything like that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Blue asks, what are your thoughts on CJ saying Nico is a modern day Andre? I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's appropriate. I would say from a localized perspective, it's appropriate, but I would say that's probably a little bit much. I think you would probably agree with that. I don't agree with that. They're thin at linebacker. I agree with that. I mean, we don't even know, is Christian Harris going to take the next step? Are we 100% sure that Christian Harris is going to take that next step? Are we 100% sure that Shire is going to be his upgrade over Blake Cashman, which I think has been the realistic expectations laid out for him? There's just some stuff to look into. Landry, the players that are speaking today, I'm assuming they're going to go on the defensive side of the rock. I would assume maybe Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, couple of those guys. CB1-2 locked in. Which one's 2? You got to let me know that, because that's news to me. What primetime games are you most looking forward to this season, and why Bears? Bears, because it's the first one. You get a look at Caleb Williams. I actually think the Bears are going to be a little bit better. It's going to be an NRG game. It's going to be Sunday night. So there's going to be a crazy atmosphere. It's going to be sold out. There's going to be excitement. You're coming off the Colts game. So yeah, I definitely would say Chicago. I'm very, very excited about Chicago. Wasn't as excited about Chicago as like when the schedule first came out. You naturally looked at Detroit. You looked at some of the other games, Baltimore on Christmas, Cowboys, obviously. And I know the Cowboys is exciting. I'm more excited for the Bears, just because I think it's going to be a symbol of where the team is, where the excitement is. It's going to be the first look we get at the stadium. I don't know if you guys have gone to the openers the last few years. It's been trash. There's been no atmosphere. You basically could have played football games in the parking lot. And this is one of the best tailgating atmospheres in the entire NFL. People who come from Dallas, people who come from even Kansas City, like in the heyday, in Kansas City is one of the good tailgating spots. Green Bay, they talk about how good the tailgating scene is, how good the vibe is. Shout out to Grill and Meat tailgaters. Shout out to Nuff Said. Shout out to all the tailgaters out there. But it's been trash on the opener. That's not going to be the case this year. You also factor in that it's going to be later. This is going to be one of the loudest crowds, like for an opener, that we've seen in a long time. And I'm not going to sit here and say, the first game against the Cowboys or anything like that. But I do think it's going to be a strong 2 seed. And I think at times it's going to be as electric, because when you go as long as people around here have gone without good ball, without good football, and then you bring it back and you bring hope, and you factor in a little Sunday night, I think that I think that it's going to be a very, 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 very wild atmosphere against the Chicago Bears. So to answer your question, that's the game that I'm looking forward to the most. Do you see us going for another big-time wide receiver next season? CeeDee Lamb would be I mean, that's expensive. I mean, that's damn near $40 million. And I very strongly doubt, like you see what the Cowboys are doing. I mean, this is Madden. Maybe in your Madden franchise, you can get CD on the squad. But if you look at what the Dallas Cowboys are doing, they're not spending money. People are calling them cheap. People are saying they're not all in. They got to pay Micah Parsons, probably make him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. And they got to pay CeeDee Lamb, probably make him one of the 3 or 4 highest paid receivers. And I don't see them letting him go. How concerned should we be about the interior D line? I haven't heard much positive or negative besides Daniil and Will Anderson Jr. teleporting to QBs. Look, when until the pads come on, you don't really get the biggest grasp of what the D line is doing. Like you can look at a guy coming off of the bus and you can say, okay, that guy right there, he might have something, and you can watch guys move around, and sometimes you can kind of try to project or try to guess about what this guy is or what this guy can be. But until we actually see these guys in pads banging with the offensive lineman paws, then you really don't know what these guys are going to be and how they're going to react. Who's the fullback? Is it going to be Beck? I don't know if they're going to carry a fullback. I am intrigued to see I am intrigued to see what Cade Stover looks like if he can line up back there. I know they liked Beck last year, but if Stover can be serviceable and you have the other options, then perhaps I don't know that fullback's going to be a big thing for the Texans this year, and how much they're going to value it. I'm not sure if they really need it, but that will be interesting to see for sure. We saw Harrison last year. Troy Harrison got hurt. I don't know how serious that injury was. I haven't even heard anything about him, but yeah, the fullback position, you're kind of getting in the sticks there. Don't know what that is. Toby says he's taking off that Monday after the Bears game. You should, because if you're doing it right, you're going to be and get there safe, get home safe. But if you're doing it right, you're going to very much enjoy that. This team lost 3 times total at home last year. We better be loud. Yeah, and I don't know, is that a good number for a good football team? Like for a really good football team, let's just look at the Chiefs last year. Let's look at the Chiefs. Because, I mean, if you're going to be a really good squad, now their home schedule's tough, so I do think you factor that in. But the Chiefs last year at home in 2023, the Chiefs, they lost the first game to Detroit. Now, they didn't have Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. So, I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal. Then they lost to Philly 21-17. And they lost to Buffalo. And they lost the Raiders. So, yeah, the Chiefs lost 4. So, yeah, I guess, I mean, if you can duplicate that, I guess that would be pretty good for the Texans. Larry Brady says, negative on players a little much on this channel. Which player have I been negative on today, sir? I don't know where you're even starting. I'm not sure. You do look like a nice fella, though. Got the game in a headlock, except exciting times right now. Let's go. Yes, it is exciting times. Very much enjoying myself. Our Texans are bought in, ready to earn history. Okay. Wasn't that an Astros line? Are we taking the Astros line, earn history? Do we want that? Do we really want the earn history? Do we want to take that right now? I don't know if that's the vibe to have at the moment. Away schedule might be more important. I think they both are. It's going to be Hunter Autry and Will Anderson Jr. at the podium. So, yeah, we'll check in on that for sure. Appreciate you for coming through. I want to get into these 3 X factors. And by the way, be sure to subscribe, like, right along. It is the Locker Room, number 1 source for Texans daily digital content. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. You can hear me right here. Texans, 3 big X factors. Number 1, Will Anderson. And these X factors go in different layers. Number 1 is Will Anderson. Will Anderson Jr., the sky's the limit. If Will Anderson Jr. reaches the potential that he can reach, I mean, you're talking game changing. You're talking Super Bowl caliber. If you get the ongoing progression of CJ Stroud and you sprinkle in Will Anderson taking the next step, and we're talking a guy who was a Pro Bowler last year, and you also factor in that Danielle Hunter's on the other side. If Will Anderson continues to validate being that number 2 overall pick, then the Texans are in really, really good shape. That is, of all the X factors, that is the most important one. And of all the X factors, I actually feel really, really good about this. Now, I don't feel as good as Twisted Mind. I'm taking our defense in round 7. You're getting a little bit out of control for that. If you're going to take the defense in round 7, I think that's a little bit crazy and a little bit much. If you're taking a defense but before the 13, you're a little nuts. But Will Anderson is definitely a guy that you feel really, really good about, and his high upside, his X factor is high. Ernesto's, thank you very much. Muchas gracias por el podcast. Thank you, sir. Gracias. Brandon says, if Will Anderson Jr. can have a second year like Khalil Mack, Myles Garrett, or maybe something impossible like Watt's second year, it'll be huge. There's going to be more sacks. Like there's not a lot of things. Like I can't sit here and tell you that CJ Stroud is going to be better statistically this year than last. I can't do that. I can't tell you Nico Collins is going to duplicate what he did last year. I can't do that. I can't even tell you the Texans are going to win as many games or go as far in the playoffs. I can't do that. But I can pound the table right now, and I can tell you Will Anderson will have more sacks this year. And Will Anderson will get to the quarterback this year. And Will Anderson will continue to be elite against the run and elite as far as what they're trying to do. That I can say with 100% certainty. Again, not a lot of things. Say 100% certainty that Will Anderson will have more sacks this year than last. Zero doubt. We'll check out what Danico Autry's got to say a little bit later. There's some other guys speaking as well. But that's X factor number 1, Will Anderson. X factor number 2, and I don't know how I feel about this because there have been times in the last 6-7 years where the offensive line has been something where you're coming off a year where it was okay, which was last year. Easy to explain why last year, or at least make an excuse why last year because of the injuries. But there have been times where the offensive line has just been really bad for different reasons, and you find yourself saying, well, it could get better. It can't get any worse. That's kind of what you would hear. You have 2 of the highest paid tackles in the league. You have competition on the interior. Jared Patterson, he's coming back. Juice Scruggs, you invested a high pick in him last year. He's going to be back. Kenyon Green, new body type he's in. And then you got a bunch of other guys in there battling out. Drafted Fisher. You have all kinds of bodies. Is it possible for the offensive line to be the disappointment that holds this team back this year? I don't feel as bad about it as I have in the past, but I don't feel great. I feel okay. Stranger things have happened than the Texans offensive line with how it's laid out, disappointing me, and it happens all the time. Now you have Titus back getting some side work on. You have Laramie Tunsil doing his thing. But I always tend to have extreme caution when it comes to the offensive line and being optimistic about it. That's just, maybe it's PTSD, maybe it's unfair, but even if you're looking at like Laramie, who's been roughed up a little bit, played hurt last year, how does he bounce back? There's no guarantee. Sometimes it can be the beginning of a pattern. Titus unable to stay healthy. I think he kind of gets the benefit of the doubt because it's out of sight, out of mind, because they're kind of throwing him around from tackle to guard. Where exactly is your confidence level in the offensive line? Because mine's not high. It's not low, but it's not high. And I think if you've watched Texans football long enough, I think that you at least feel a little bit uneasy when talking about that. Do you think this will be a squad that is out to murder teams 10+ points deficit weekly, or one that is down to just win by 3? I think they're going to be down to do whatever they got to do. And however the hell they got to do it. That's what I think. I do wonder, like, the conservative balance. I think that was something that Slowick kind of struggled with last year, balancing being conservative with being overly aggressive. I do think that's something to keep an eye on. But I don't think the squad's like going to have some set formula. I don't think they're just going to keep games close like they did with Bill O'Brien. I don't see that necessarily happening. Corey says, I feel better about the offensive line this year than I have for a couple of seasons. Depth feels much better than recent years. I agree with that. My question would be, how good have you felt the last couple of years, you know? I mean, even heading into last year. But yeah, heading into the season. And I actually think there's an underrated aspect of the amount of bodies they have when it comes to the interior. So I'm with you on that for sure. Over under on rookies who start play in 14-ish games. I got my number at 4, 3.5. Play, like, do you mean, like, does it count if Fisher goes out there and is on field goal team or something like that? Does that count? Does it count if Bullock's like limited or playing some special teams? If Hill's just playing special teams, like big time contributors for rookies, I don't know that this is a class for that. I know Lassiter had a good day today, but I don't know this is a class for that. Now, it might be one that when we're sitting here in the locker room 2 years from now, we're looking back and saying, damn, man, they were really smart playing it slow with those rookies. But getting in 14-ish games, I mean, I would put the number at above 4. But maybe you have a different definition of what that is. I think the offensive line's top 3 in money spent, if I'm not mistaken. I know Tunsil's up there second now, right? Because of Sewell. Titus, I think, is top 6, top 7. And then you have some interior guys. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Confidence is high in the O-line. I like it, Chris. I like it. I mean, confidence isn't low. I'm not sitting here predicting bad. For sure. Confidence is high in the O-line. They were depleted last year and still had a decent year. I think they'll be much better when healthy. I don't know what that old guy's talking about. Got to put him in timeout just for 5 minutes. Brandon Hallman, should we keep Tunsil out of special teams plays? You're talking about because of the injury last year? Man, that was scary. And the worst thing about it for me, for what I do, which is interact with folks after games, I knew, just like the Tank Dell injury, there was going to be a certain portion of people, and I know you guys, I know you guys, some of y'all might raise your hand and admit it, but there was going to be people sitting there and saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe that he was out there on special teams. Even if he's been out there on special teams the whole time, you guys got to admit it. You know, you were going to be doing that, raising your hands and saying, yeah, I would have been criticizing, just like with Tank Dell in their blocking. You guys know who you are. For sure. Final X factors. So we've got the offensive line and we've got Will Anderson. Feel amazing about Will Anderson. Feel better about the offensive line than I have in last couple years, but I don't know that that's really saying much. Danny, very big of you. You're admitting it. I think Brandon's somewhat admitting it in his best way. We'll hear from Danico Autry in a sec. But number 3 was the third phase. And the third phase is obviously special teams. And with this new kickoff role, like, I don't know what the hell it's going to look like. I don't know how the hell it's going to be coached. We don't know how Frank Ross is going to coach it. He's never coached it. So this is brand new for Frank Ross. I'm actually happy for him because I think he's really good at what he does. I think he prepares. I think he's a great guy. And I think he'll do well in coaching this. And the special teams have been really elite for how bad things have been for, a large chunk of the last few years. The special teams have always been really, really elite with Frank Ross. And some people can say, well, there's always touchbacks and all that. Well, there's not going to be anymore. And I think Frank Ross is going to thrive. I think the more work you give Frank Ross, the better job he does. So I'm intrigued by this, but I do think it's important because there are going to be some teams that struggle with it. And special team struggles in today's NFL or the NFL moving forward, they are they appear much more costly than special team struggles the last few years, where it's an occasional punt return. Very rarely are you seeing kicks get returned. Maybe a missed field goal. I don't even really blame special teams coaches for field goal kickers. Kickers, I mean, some teams have kicking coaches, but for the most part, kickers are, what are you going to tell them? Kick the ball here, kick the ball at this angle. Most of these guys are on their own. If you've ever been to an NFL practice, hell, if you've ever been to a high school practice, kicker's sitting by himself on the far field kicking. So a lot of times when people talk about special teams roles, majority of the time it's punt coverage or has been. And then a lot of times it's kicking, which I don't blame special teams coaches for, really, for the most part. But the new element's going to be crazy. And I think that's a massive X factor for sure. I think Dameon Pierce is going to get a chance to do that. I don't know who else is even competing with them, but I can't wait to actually see. I think that's going to be really, really cool to see. Let's hear from Danico Autry, what he had to say during his first media availability. You've heard what let's hear what he had.
Just hard nosed, relentless.
Okay.
I'm gonna give y'all I got every play.
One of your better years at 34,
33.
33. We same age. What you contribute to that?
Like I said, just taking care of my body, maintenance. Being able to go whenever I'm called on, and just study and just doing what I do, playing ball.
You had your best career, best season of your career. What made you kind of choose Houston out of all the options that you had?
I just wanted to come be a part of something that that's going in the right direction. I really can't. I just want to be a part of something great. You know what I mean?
Undrafted player. How were you able to find success in this league throughout since 2014?
Just competing. It's gonna always be that one guy that they bring in to kind of push you out the way. But if you keep whooping those guys out, you're gonna succeed.
When it goes to where you line up, do you have a preference whether you line up across the tackle or if you're over the guard? Do you like both of them? What are some things you look maybe?
Yeah, it don't matter. Just put the ball down. I just want to play ball. Don't matter.
When you look at D'Amico Ryan's defense, what were some things that stood out about joining this team and what you think you can contribute to it?
Just that swarm, the swarming to the ball.
Oh, he's already saying
this effort. Getting out the stag. It's just the way the defense set up is how I play the game. So I feel like it would have been a great fit for me.
What have you gotten known about Will Anderson since you've been here?
Oh man. Will knows it all, man. He knows the defense. He helps me out learning the system. You know what I mean? He's a good guy, good kid. You know what I mean? So, just being around Will, I look forward to playing with him.
When you look at some of those guys that are here that maybe had that same trajectory like you had early on in your career, Khalil, Kurt, just getting to know those guys. How has that been?
It's been smooth, man. Like I said, I'm just here to be a great teammate, help us win. So I ain't hard to get along with. Like I said, I'm trying to be a great teammate.
You got to see the offense firsthand last year in Tennessee, but from just getting to know him, what have you noticed about CJ Stroud and his leadership?
Oh, a great leader. I was watching him in practice today, man, just watching him move and practice like he really that guy. You know what I mean? So, like I said,
Man, a few words. Seems like kind of a quiet dude. I know Casario and them called him a badass base football playing Jesse, I think was the term that Caserio used. He's one of those guys, those X factors that'll be really, really interesting. Gunnar K says Frank Ross looks like Frank Castle. In my opinion, I don't even know who Frank Castle is, if I'm being honest. Who would start at center? Jared Patterson or Juice Scruggs? For me, it's Patterson 100 times out of 100. 100 times out of 100 seems like a lot. I think they like Juice at center. I think Jared Patterson did a good job. I think it really depends. How good do you think Juice is at guard? I would tap the brakes on judging Juice Scruggs completely, because last year, and I thought it was actually pretty admirable of him, the guy was kind of looking good in camp, and then he had the setback, and he was kind of thrown to the wolves. And he held his own for the most part. There were highs, there were lows, but I thought that Juice Scruggs held his own for the most. So I wouldn't I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Frank Castle is the Punisher. Yeah, see, I don't know that. You're gonna have to talk to Marvel folk for me. Couple of questions about the Texans. I wanted to throw this at people. Brandon Aiyuk is absent in San Francisco. He's not even worried about the fines. I know Kyle Shanahan said something along the lines of some guys come to avoid fines, some don't when it comes to Aiyuk. Every time a wide receiver and contract stuff comes up, you hear people say, well, Nico Collins. Thank God they got the Nico Collins deal done. Jefferson got paid. Nico Collins, thank goodness. Is Brandon Aiyuk going to get a higher or lower contract than Nico Collins? Is in other words, because I think he's kind of in the range. Like if we're talking about Devontae Smith and Nico Collins, and both of them, although there was a higher chunk of guaranteed bread, but both of them, for the most part, assuming that they play out their 3 seasons of the contract, it's going to be 3 years, $75 million, which I think is a good amount. Aiyuk, 60 catches, 56, 78, 75. He missed 1 game last year, and he missed 4 games in 2020. So he's missed 5 games in 4 seasons. Last year, he had 75 catches for 1,342. He has 2 1,000-yard seasons, 25 touchdowns in 4 years. But if the San Francisco 49ers, and maybe this has to do with the talent that they have, but if the San Francisco 49ers were building their roster, or they were ranking their roster, would the San Francisco 49ers put Brandon Aiyuk near the top? I don't think, especially in their situation, that he is as valuable as Nico Collins. Now, he might be. There were rumors that they were trying to get rid of Deebo Samuel, perhaps, in the draft, and they were shopping Aiyuk. But I think Aiyuk is in that range of Nico Collins. So when we talk about comparisons, I kind of roll my eyes at the Jefferson. I don't necessarily roll my eyes when we're talking about Brandon Aiyuk and the comparison with Nico Collins, for sure. Bought the numbers. He should make more than Collins, but after looking at what they gave McCaffrey, I'm thinking it'll be less. Yeah, I'm interested to see how the Aiyuk thing actually plays out. One thing that's going back to the offensive line, one thing that's hard to look past is that Patterson allowed 0 sacks in his 200-plus snaps before he got hurt. I agree. You also can't give up on Juice because you spent the second rounder last year on him. This is true. This is true. And why would you want to give up on him? What did you see from Juice Scruggs that would even make you remotely want to give up on him? That's the other question. What do you even see that would make you want to do that? Nothing for me. I'm actually intrigued by it. I want to see him even more. Are you rooting for Trevor Lawrence? It is the Locker Room. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Are you rooting for Trevor Lawrence to get a new deal? I am. Do I think Trevor Lawrence is terrible? No. I think his elite trait is toughness. I heard Greg Cosell talking about him playing in a rhythm and that when he plays in a rhythm, he's valuable. Do you think Trevor Lawrence, like if Trevor Lawrence gets a contract and you're a Texans fan, are you upset? It makes it more difficult for them to build a roster. They've already kind of gone all in and been throwing money all over the place the first few years and haven't really been able to get over the hump. They had the one wild ass playoff win against the Chargers, but we all knew that was a Brandon Staley thing. There's a reason why he was a dead coach walking and he ended up getting fired midseason. They disappointed last year. If Trevor Lawrence gets paid, does that make you feel any type of way? Aren't you rooting for the highest amount possible when it comes to Trevor Lawrence? I would say yes. 100%. 100% rooting for T-Law to get the highest QB contract ever in NFL history. It would cripple the Jags in spectacular fashion. Look, it would obviously increase the pressure of having to bring in players and figure stuff out. That's for sure. Texans 22. Trevor Lawrence is absolutely mid. I hope he gets an extension. He's too inconsistent for me to care about. You'll care about him twice a year, for sure. But as far as like, there might be years where the Jags win the division. I don't think you're going to look at it and say, man, it was all Trevor Lawrence and man, the league is in trouble with Trevor Lawrence. Right now, CJ has that buzz. We'll see if it stays the same or not. I don't even know if he's overrated anymore. Who has Trevor Lawrence ranked that high? That would be my question. I think this is a good comparison by Jonathan. Shout out to Jonathan. Trevor Lawrence equals Cousins. Could see that. Although I still think he's got a little bit of way to go before he gets to that point. I mean, if you had Kirk Cousins in his prime or Trevor Lawrence with what you've seen so far, he's not in his prime. You wouldn't think. Which one scares you the most just up to this point? Because I think a case can be made. You could say CJ, even though you have a small sample size. So there is a small sample size with Trevor Lawrence, but which one scares you more? Kirk Cousins in his prime or Trevor Lawrence with the best you've seen from him so far? I think the answer is relatively easy. I think it's Kirk Cousins. I don't think it's close at all. Trevor Lawrence peaked his freshman season at Clemson. Man, he was pretty effing good. We definitely knew that he would be the number one pick. He was definitely pretty damn good. No doubt. For sure. Rachel, been listening to 610 all week. Thought you were on vacation. Found my new podcast to listen to. Won't be going back. Okay, well, appreciate you for coming through. And I don't know what you're missing. Maybe some press conferences or something. Don't know. Marion Berry says JJ McCarthy or Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. I'm not going to take it too far. I know I was kind of working Trevor Lawrence into a shoot, but I'm not going to take it too far. Let's not be crazy. Danny brought this up. I'm glad you brought this up, Danny. I was going to talk about this tonight on the stream, and every night at 10:30, we have the late night locker room stream. It's a pretty hostile crowd at times, but it's a fun crowd, and it's very, very it's a must listen to whether you're with us live or whether you join later. They ranked Stingley the 27th best cornerback out of all the CB1s in the league. I want to kind of pull this up because I saw the rankings and I was going to dive a little bit more into it before tonight, but I'll just do this with y'all. And I'll pull this up, the PFF rankings. And PFF is so polarizing. The funniest thing about PFF for me is that you have some players who will retweet their awesome PFF rankings, but then when they get a bad one, they'll talk about how crappy PFF is. It's kind of a selective thing. I think it's a good resource. Like, I've heard people say, well, these guys don't know. These guys are putting in a lot of work. They're watching a lot of film. They're watching film as much as you possibly can. Hell, Bobby Slowick came from PFF. Little known fact. Might be a frequently known fact if you frequent this channel, but Bobby Slowick came from PFF. That's where he was for a couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, they do their study. A lot of times the formulas are whack, but I do think it's a good resource. I think it's, if you consume it enough, there's a grain of salt. But I mean, I like how they have an estimated reading time. How funny is that? So normally they'll lay out what their line of thinking is. Let's try to get to the bottom of this. These cornerback rankings consider several factors. So this is the important part. Coverage grade, which is primarily influenced by plays where the defender was targeted. Ability to prevent separation. So at the line, difficulty of assignment, and PFF grade on plays where the players were not targeted. So I just don't know, like, especially with a guy like Derek Stingley, and we'll go down here. There's Sauce, there's Sertan, there's all types of stuff. We'll go down to where Stingley is. The 2023 version of Stingley is much more what we expected after he was selected 3rd overall in the 2022 NFL draft. He followed up the 49.9 grade in his rookie year with an 85.3 grade that ranked 5th at the position in 2023. If he plays like he did this season, he'll find himself in the top 10. So they have some good things to say. It's more so, I think there's a certain element of lifetime achievement award in this, perhaps. But the other thing I think to factor in here is that if you're grading plays where a guy wasn't targeted, first of all, I guess you can do that because maybe he was covering the guy well, and you can see that, and you can say, okay, well, I like what I saw here. But my thing is this: Derek Stingley's the type of guy, and we saw this, I think, against Denver, and we've seen this a couple of times. He likes to bait the quarterback. So a lot of times when it looks like Derek Stingley's beat, he's baiting the quarterback. So if you're grading him based on when he's not targeted, and let's say he's trying to bait the quarterback, you're probably not going to give him a very good grade. And that's why I think it's important whenever you look at the PFF stuff, to where over a certain amount of time, maybe you realize, like, you watched the game and you felt like they were off on a grade, or it didn't feel symbolic or proportional to how the player actually performed. Factor that in, but also they'll tell you what they did. So it's not like a lot of people say, well, this is random. They just told you. And maybe that could explain it. And I think that's kind of something that Derek Stingley does. Not everyone can do that. A lot of times you want to just stay on them close. But hey, does it really matter? Don't know. Doesn't seem to matter too much. What's up, Elber? Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Let's hear from Will Anderson. Let's hear what Will Anderson had to say. He spoke earlier today. Here was what Will Anderson had to say to the media.
It's a lot of turnover from last season. How do you feel like they're gelling? What kind of defense do you think this can be?
Yeah, I think it's a special thing that we got going on here on defense, man. And it's been such a blessing to be a part of this group already. Just the togetherness of the D-line, to the togetherness of the defense. It's been really special, man. Aziz, he's really been taking charge, man. He's been, challenging all of us just to come out and give effort every day. Getting your playbook, know your job, know your responsibility, and holding people accountable. And that's what you need in the middle of a defense.
What were the biggest changes you made this offseason, particularly for yourself?
Man, the way I eat, the way I take care of my body, the way I study, really just self-assessing everything that I was doing from last year to this year. And those are the areas that I really want to improve on, getting bigger, stronger, and faster, and be able to, make sure that towards the end of the season, I can last longer. I still got good weight. I still got good playing strength and all that type of stuff. So those have kind of been the things that I've really been trying to home in on and make sure that my body is right and where it needs to be at.
Last week, go ahead.
Along those same lines, how have you seen, the changes that you made throughout the offseason, kind of improve your game?
Yes, it's been it's been crazy, man. Pass rush is so many different things, and you really don't know how to put it all in once until you finally get a chance to talk to other pass rushers and Myles Garrett and Daniil, and working on your ankle flexion, working on your hips, all those different things just to loosen you up to be able to be more bendy around the edge, to be able to open up more moves for you. So for me, that was my biggest thing, is like working with my ankle mobility, working in my hips, arm strength, grip strength, all those things. So like those are areas that I've really been focusing on in this OTA. I've had the privilege to, learn from Daniil and see how he works and try to some of the moves and stuff like that. And they're working because I've learned how to take care of my body and how to do those things to help me turn the corner, how to help me get off blocks, how to help me escape, how to use a long arm and things like that.
Last week, Joe Mixon said that, he's glad that he's on this team and don't have to go up against you all's defense.
Yeah.
When you look at the other side of the ball, with the additions that they made on offense, what do you think about what Nick was able to add this year?
Man, it's electric, man. They got a lot of skilled guys over there, great O-line, great running back room, of course, CJ, man. So it's very special what they have going over there, man. And they've been bonding really well. They do a lot of things outside of here. Diggs, he's been a great addition. Nico, Tank, all those guys. They've been learning from each other, and you can see that on the field, man. They're flying around, having fun. So I'm excited to see how the offense does. It's so electric over there, man. And CJ's leading the way.
All right, there you go. That's Will Anderson. We'll get a little bit more into that a little later on in the night when the stream starts. I'm a big fan of Will Anderson, and I think that Will Anderson is one of those guys. I think one of the most important things that you can do in from year 1 to year 2 is take care of your body, perfect your craft, all that type of stuff. I think that's something that Will Anderson is going to do. So I think of all the things that could go well for the Texans, all the things that could end up working out for the Texans. I think that Will Anderson is the thing that you should feel the most excited about. And when you take into account that that's the thing that can take you to the highest level because you have an impact guy on the edge and you have people around him, I think that's something really, really to feel good about. So the 3 X factors, I started out here. I want you to tell me which of these X factors you feel good about, which you feel okay about, and rank 1 to 3. Do it in the comments, which you feel best about. Number 1 was Will Anderson. Number 2 was the offensive line. And number 3 was Frank Ross and the new kickoff rules. How do y'all feel about those things? I think it's something to look at, something to take into account, something to check out for sure. I'm very, very intrigued to see this, no doubt. And how good can this defense be? I think this could end up being a top 10, top 12 defense, especially when you factor in the fact that the offense, I think, is going to put up some points. It's going to force the opposing offense into throwing situations. And I think it's going to give the defense a lot of opportunity to force turnovers, swarm, as D'Amico Ryan's often says, little swarm action for the D. You ain't never hate. Swarm. What's up, Nick? I think Casario is going to do an interview on 610 this week. He's going to be with Seth and Sean. I probably got to check that out. Usually it makes a little bit of news. So that usually kind of makes the round. So we'll have to check that out. We'll hear from Daniil Hunter in the night stream as well. But let me know who you feel good about when it comes to the breakouts. We'll get into some of the other stuff a little bit later. Appreciate everyone for coming through. We're going to do this throughout the day. Right now it's kind of the slow time. At least when it comes to sports, it's going to start. But I'll be doing this. I'll be doing a lot more streaming. Already got some stuff in the works, perhaps for during football season. Add some more to the plate, some more of the same-ish, perhaps. Who knows? You never know. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for stopping by the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily.